Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and once again it is time for the Monday Q&As. I apologize if these are coming up a little later than they should have. I had some major problems with the sound quality last night. I recorded all 5 parts last night. Parts 1 and 2, we lost about 20% of the audio. It either muted out or dropped out so quiet that you couldn't even hear it. But the last 3 parts, it came in fine. I'm not sure if it was just a connection issue with the Bluetooth mic or something went wrong there. But the audio seems to be running strong now. I can see the bar running fine on it for the input. So let's go ahead and knock out part 1 and 2 and get these up with the others. I'll put them in order though when I go to edit it here. Alright, first question. In-season athlete with matches, is it possible to simultaneous loving, baby, 2 or 3, increase cardiovascular endurance and strength without overreaching, as I have to be fit for game days? Okay, if this is a tricky question. Now, it depends on how experienced you are. It's almost irrespective of what sport you play, though. Assuming you're in season, I'm going to assume you're competing up to once every 2 weeks or even possibly weekly in some sort of match or meet or field game. So that's going to make it very difficult to progress. You need to focus on, unless you're a first or second year athlete, in which case you can progress year round, even in season. But if you're not, if you've been training or competing in your sport for say 3 years, or you're in your 3rd or 4th year, you're simply going to struggle to maintain all of your performance elements, still recover from your competition training practice, and still be able to progress at any of your skills. You're going to want to focus on progressing as hard and as fast as you can during the off seasons. Put all your effort into that. And then in season, you're going to want to run some type of concurrent training that is minimalist in nature. It's going to need to address every single one of your performance elements that you need for your sport, your strength, your power, your endurance, your strength, stamina, everything that you're going to need, even your agility. You're going to need to keep all of these things up, which means you're going to need to run a minimalist style concurrent training for them just to maintain them, because you're going to have to be able to perform. You can't be tired or exhausted when you go to compete every week or every 2 weeks, and you can't afford to not recover from the actual competition by the time you're getting back to the training. And so you're not going to be able to put enough volume or workload or focus into any one of these without something else being hindered at that point. And most likely what's going to be hindered is going to be your actual competitiveness on the field. So no, you really are not going to be able to do that effectively, barring drugs. And even guys on drugs will generally need to increase whatever they are using to successfully start increasing any of these things during the end season. So it's just not a viable method for most people. It really isn't. You need to focus on maintaining what you have in season. All right, next question. Would you ever do Olympic lifting at some point in your life? I like the idea of Olympic lifting. I don't know if it's for me, because I don't like the type of environment around it at competitions. It's one of the reasons I do the type of powerlifting I've done, is I prefer that type of environment. I don't like that civilized, respectable, competitive environment. It's not my style. So that's one issue with it. Even though, again, I love the discipline behind it and just the amount of commitment that it takes to be really good at it. The other issue is that right now, with the current culture, Olympic lifting or weightlifting, whichever term you prefer for it, is exclusively a drug-tested sport. And I wouldn't be able to make any money at it. I am not willing to go through the hassle of passing continual rigorous drug testing and random off-season drug testing for no financial gain. Now, if I was making a couple $100,000 a year doing it, I would have no problem subjecting myself to that and dealing with all the frequent injections of the type of substances they use to bypass it, spending the extra money, the hassle, all the problems that go around with having to deal with these random tests all the time while still being competitive. I wouldn't have an issue with that if there was real money for me in it, which there would never be. So to me, I don't see any point in putting myself through that when I have perfectly viable, untested strength sports that are open to me. So just because of that fact, I don't understand really why anyone subjects themselves to exclusively tested only sports unless they're going to make a lot of money at it. All right, next question. What is your take on Prohormones? I am not a fan at all. I don't recommend their use, and I'm going to assume that you're meaning true Prohormones and maybe not designer steroids. Now, in the U.S., this is a non-issue because designer steroids have all been outlawed also along with most of the Prohormones, although a few Prohormones still pop up and are legal for a short time in the U.S., and people use them while they're legal. Here in the UK, a little bit more important of a topic because they're over-the-counter, whereas in anabolic steroids are not over-the-counter. You can have them, but you can't walk in and buy them at the supplement shop. You can walk in and buy everything from Superdrol to True Prohormones at the supplement shop down the street here in England still. The issue is that you run into is even with the designer steroids, they're higher toxicity orals usually than normal anabolic orals are, so they're harsher on your body, and you still don't have a testosterone base, and so there's no point in anyone to ever run oral only. You don't have the same over-the-counter ancillaries to deal with side effects, PCT, all of that. Those things are all junk that they sell. So you're still having to dabble into pharmaceuticals if you're using these things at some point, irrespective of which country you're in. And it just doesn't make sense to me to do that. And when it comes to things like Prohormones themselves, they oftentimes cost more than testosterone. They have a much, much, much larger negative health effect on your body, particularly your liver, and they usually produce inferior results. Not always, but usually inferior. So, that being said, I'm not a fan. I don't advocate their use. I don't see why anybody would use them, even in the countries where they are legal. It's just silly. And even for the argument that people make, well, I use it because it is legal in my country and testosterone is illegal, the question I always ask that person is, well, if you're going to use something and you're going to take a risk, I would personally rather be strong and healthy and be in jail than I would be laying in a hospital bed having my doctor tell me he found 3 new tumors in my liver this week. Alright guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it has been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time in part 2.